Ini apa Mahir?
Thank you.
So he's also connected to Mara. He has another good friend from disability program.
Penting udah kelihatan jalan kan?
I don't underestimate. I think that's such a big thing.
I hope so everyone copy you it. I knew, he said that you told him that it needs 3 words. Yeah, I said no, the cells go back in 1 month. They said how can you take the starter wipe and then come back? I told you, I said when you go there afterwards, especially now that Dr. is not there, we don't even know what's that little fish this guy is. So just don't sit there and take notes. You're actually going to be active translators.
So this is to prepare for a job, right?
Yeah, sit there then. Pain is what pain, right?
Itu di close aja tuh, jangan upload. Kalau nggak di stop. Itu kalau di stop mati nggak? Offline.
And distinguished guests, please proceed to the hall as the opening ceremony is about to begin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. First of all, to the Honorable Guest Lecturer, Professor Dr. Frederick, Medical Doctor PhD, the Director of Senior Reform, Medical Doctor PhD, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the guest lecture of Occupational and Environmental Nutrition, Microbiome, and Disease Risk. This event is conducted by collaboration between Community Medicine Department, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia, Senior Reform, and also Occupational and Environmental Health Research Center, IMERI. I am Sadiko Suma, honored to be your Master of Ceremony for today. We hope that all of us can get all the benefits and knowledge through this event. Before we proceed, we would like to invite all of you to stand up and listen to our national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya.
Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka.
Program of Senior Rector, Dr. Umi Fahmida, MSc, to give her welcome speech. Ibu Umi, the time is yours.
Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. To our honorable guest speaker, Professor Fred Hendrik, the Director of Microbiome, our guests, invitee, and also participants, representatives from the ministries of health, from occupational health and sports, from Directorate of Nutrition, also from the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. All participants, welcome to Senior Recon Building. This is the Regional Center for Food and Nutrition. We are very honored to have to host these sessions with our international expert, Professor Fred Hendrik. And it is actually such occasion like we have today is in line with our missions to develop human resource capacity in food and nutrition in the region. In particular, we are committed to conducting research, capacity building, and especially information dissemination as we have today in order to strengthen the food and nutrition expertise in the region. And I think with this information dissemination and also partnership, we hope that we can achieve further, not only in broadening our understanding of the multidisciplinary nature of nutrition, but also to continue the good networking, because we believe nutrition is also complex in nature, multidisciplinary, and also needs to be extended through many interfaces, not only also delivery channels, so to say, not only in community, but also in setting like occupational, working setting. So I think with these more considerations of comprehensive interdisciplinary nature of nutrition, like the consideration of microbiome, which is now emerging in nutrition, also with the considerations of the occupational health in relation to nutrition in the work settings, we hope that we can strengthen our contributions as a regional center in food and nutrition. And we thank you so much, Dr. Fred, again, and all the co-organizers from the Department of Occupational Medicine, Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Indonesia, for this nice collaboration. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Thank you, Dr. Umi. Ladies and gentlemen, briefly, there will be two lectures today, which are the first one, lecture on occupational nutrition, environment, and challenges, that will be delivered by Dr. Mukhtaruddin Mansur, PhD, and then followed by the lecture on the impact of the microbiome in human health and disease prevention, that will be delivered by Prof. Dr. Fred Hendrik, Medical Doctor, PhD. Before that, we invite our moderator, Dr. Nuri Pulito Adi, Master of Occupational Medicine, Specialist on Occupational Medicine. Please welcome our moderator. He is currently the head of Occupational Medicine Specialist Program, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. He earned his specialist on Occupational Medicine at Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia in 2014. To Dr. Nuri, the time is yours.
Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is a great honor for me to sit here to be the moderator of a great session this morning about the occupational nutrition and the microbiome. And we will have the first session from Dr. Mukhtaruddin Mansur. I think everybody already knows Dr. Mukhtaruddin Mansur. Now he is the director of the Recon, and also the staff of the Division of Occupational Medicine. Department of Community Medicine in Universitas Indonesia, Faculty of Medicine Universitas Indonesia, and also former Director of the Occupational Health Directorate at the Ministry of Health. Dr. Muhammad Mansur will deliver a lecture about the occupational nutrition environment and the challenges. So I would like to invite Dr. Muhammad as the first speaker today, and
thank you very much, Dr. Director. Only time for the presentation for the 30 minutes. Well, thank you very much. Very good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the organizing committee to give me opportunity to share about what I will deliver about occupational nutrition, environment, and the challenge. They asked me to. Okay. Well, as I mentioned, the topic is about occupational nutrition, environment, and the challenge, especially in Indonesia. And the outline of this topic is, I will start with the background and then continue with occupational nutrition, environmental contamination of food, and the challenge. Let's see our nutrition problem. I call as we have been facing triple burden of nutrition problems. The first is related to the undernutrition. We have a data that 1/3 of 3-year-old children are starving. 1/5 undernutrition, and 1/3 of adolescent and pregnant are protein and energy deficiencies. Further, more than 37% prevalence of anemia among pregnant women, both in the rural and in the urban area. About obesity, we know 1/10 of 3-year-old children are obese, and 1/4, even 1/3 adults are obese in Indonesia. And even contamination of food, we haven't got national data about this, but at least we can see, based on the report of Ministry of Health and BPOM, for the pangan jajanan anak sekolah, street vendors in the school are contaminated by micro more than 70%, toxic substance more than 15%, and overuse or exceeded adulterants or additive 9%. So there is a triple burden of nutrition problem that we have been facing currently. I would like to show that nutrition is a major component of occupational medicine. So the occupational nutrition is very important pillar to support the healthy, wealthy, productive community. We can see that nutrition and reproductive health, together with non-communicable disease, communicable disease, accident and work accident, and occupational disease, are the main subject that we have to overcome all of the Because if we would like to achieve zero working day loss workers, we can't ignore one of them. The program Nutrition and Reproductive Health can be conducted through health promotion, specific protection and disease prevention, disability limitation, and other microphone. Yeah. Well, mean that nutrition will have a very important role in the work capacity, but in the other hands, nutrition with the contamination with toxic contaminants, also the challenge as our problem at the workplace. So that's why occupational nutrition is very important to be implemented at the workplace. Nutrition program should be developed further in the workplace setting. What is occupational nutrition? Occupational nutrition is a nutrition program at the workplace as part of comprehensive occupational safety and health policy. The main program of occupational nutrition including nutrition education, food safety, and canteen sanitation, canteen and kitchen sanitation. And based on the ILO report 2005 about food at work, workplace solution for malnutrition, obesity, and chronic disease. The study shows that workplace meal program providing convenient access to healthy food can help prevent micronutrient deficiencies and chronic disease, including obesity and diabetes. This is the report of ILO in 2005, meaning that if we implement the nutrition program at the workplace, we will overcome, especially related to Indonesian. In the Indonesian context, mean that we will reach more than half of population in Indonesia. Mean that we can overcome more than half of nutrition problem in Indonesian population. Well, we can see what is nutrition education. We may make hyperlink with healthy eating at the workplace, please. It is an example that our opportunity to develop this canteen like this video.
Darwin Health and University Hospital has made some major changes, prompted by a Looking Together Achievement Program. We're using the Healthy Choice Guidelines, which is based on a traffic light system of red, amber and green. This helps our staff identify healthy choices and it makes it a lot easier. And this has been across our catering menu, in our canteens and our vending machines. We've made major changes in the cafeteria. We've reduced all our soft drinks. Our juices were reduced in size, and also our confectionery has been cut by that.
We've been involved in the traffic light system since 2010. The traffic light system is 50% green, 30% amber and 20% red. We've tried to go above that if we can by changing our recipes and adapting them to the traffic light system. We're using low-fat milks, we're using more vegetables, and we're trying to modify a lot of our recipes so that they become green. We've also discouraged deep frying. We use that very limited. And we've also been in contact working with our distributors to try and encourage them to introduce more low-fat products to help us out. But at the moment, a lot of it was still centralised on fast foods, and we need to get out of that way of thinking.
With the support support of the dietitian, we've changed the catering order form to assist with the meetings that are held across Parliament Health to offer more healthy choices like sandwiches, wraps, sushi, fresh fruit, yogurts.
Parliament Health is very keen to support healthy eating within the workplace. A committee has been set up to encourage this, and as a consequence, we've been able to introduce a workplace policy for healthy eating.
I'm really pleased to advise people that we have introduced food choices, healthy food choices, into both our cafeteria here as well as at Microbiome Centre. We've done that for two reasons. Having a healthy workforce is really important to the productivity of the health services in Geelong, but more importantly, health staff have a significant role in being role modelling good behaviour and good food choices, and this is going to improve the health of our community.
For your information, Prof. Aminuddin, if you come next year in here, you can join our canteen that start to build in front of you in the backyard of this office. Okay. This is our dream to to do so. Umi or Pak Agus will do further for this. Well, and then the speaker? Yeah, thank you. Well, the second activities of the nutrition is nutrition supplementation. The national supplement is aimed at filling the gap between the requirements and their intake. Usually in Indonesia, workers have deficiency for some nutrients and even the calorie. So by the nutrition supplementation, especially for them who work with the high risk, for example, shift workers who work with the hazard at the workplace, really need to have nutrition supplementation to fill the gap. And as I mentioned, nutrition support for the vulnerable workers, such as the pregnant workers and lactating female workers. And the third one is personal health and hygiene. It is very important that the workers should have a good working knowledge of basic sanitation and hygiene principles through the training, and they should become familiar with typical signs and symptoms of infectious diseases related to foodborne disease, and also provide protection from any lesion, any small lesion, and good hygiene practices such as single surface and fit disposable gloves for the food handlers and proper hand washing. And the other thing is all parties, including visitors, we just developed the standard operating procedure for all visitors should comply with established hygienic practice. Dear colleagues, in this diagram, I will show you the flow chart of human exposure to contaminant pathways and associated mechanisms involved and framework for intervention. You can see the contaminant can be from adulterants, from preservative, and others food enhancer, and also from the contaminants from the environment, including heavy metals, organic solvent, and also unhealthy food. And then we can also see the risk assessment of the problem. And then also regulatory framework is very important to control the contaminants, contaminated food, I mean. Well, we know that unsafe food is the result of contamination of biological, including bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi, chemical, such as cleaners, sanitizer and policies, and also physical, such as sometimes we may find metal shaping, staples, I mean, band-aids, glass, dirt, and other natural objects, such as fish bone in village. Naturally occurring substance in food that may be hazardous to health in excess quantities, including aflatoxin, allergens, caffeine, cyanide, fapism, goitrogens, hemagglutins, and also laterogens, and also mycotoxins, ergotism, augmentotoxic allegia, oxalic acid, nitrates and nitrates, and pyrrolidine, alkaloids, and solanine. It is the kind of substance that's commonly found in the as a food contaminant. And the soft environmental contamination can be industrial, agricultural, and food processing. In industrial, especially related to the heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and cadmium, and also polychlorinated biphenyl that usually used in the what we call as main component wood and CP. And also in agricultural, we know that a very common use of pesticides, and in some farm they also use the antibiotics and hormones in some poultry. In food processing, we can find cleaning agents, lubricants, packing materials, and also solvent residues and other external substances such as excreta, hairs, insects, and etc. Okay. Unfortunately, I tried to find the national data of contaminated food in Indonesia, but both in the Ministry of Health and Food and Drug Administration (BPOM) have no data about this. But at least we can see that the problem with the contaminated food, based on the data from Ministry of Health in 2015, that more than 70% it is contaminated by microbes, around 15% contaminated by the additive and adulterants, and then 9% is contaminated by the by the toxic substance. This is very challenging in occupational medicine. It's related to the human biomonitoring, because if we talk about the etiology to be proved as a source of the toxicant in nutrition, it should be, for example, hydrochlorinated biphenyl. We have to find the hydrochlorinated biphenyl in feces, or we may find the HCB metabolites in urine or in other body fluid to make evident that these disorders or health problem is caused by the contaminated food. Again, this is a kind of challenge in occupational medicine. And the other challenge is nutritional intervention. We can find that in this flow chart, we can find that gene and environment interaction that will have their effect on health. And in fact, currently, the metabolic phenotypes, it can be measured. And by measuring these metabolic types, will provide insight into the health, including, the opportunity to do the nutrition intervention through the exposome and microbiome that might be also involved in this interaction, because we know the metabolites will be influenced by intrinsic factors and also extrinsic factors, including environmental factors that will be Fandri will explain further about this. And this is also the opportunity, challenge and opportunity that based on this, for example, wet brain intake can attenuate chronic cadmium toxicity in mice gut microbiota. I mean that microbial metabolism and toxicology is a big challenge and also opportunity in occupational medicine and toxicology that will be listen to the Fred Fandri later about this. So based on the information, we can summary the challenge of occupational nutrition. That occupational nutrition implementation in Indonesia is still challenging. Challenge including company management willingness, reaching the majority of workers in individual, especially in micro, small scale enterprise, because in Indonesia, more than 75% the workers work for the informal sectors. Less than 40% they work for the medium and big scale enterprise or informal sectors. The other is strengthening the regulation concerning the implementation of nutrition in the workplace with practical guidance of training, supporting facility, hygiene practice and techniques. This is also the challenge for the Regional Center for Food Nutrition, BUMI, to conduct further to build the evidence-based policy. And the strengthening the surveillance of foodborne disease at the workplace, and developing and implementing the biomonitoring of nutrition, as I mentioned briefly before, and developing of nutrition intervention in occupational medicine. These are some challenges that I can conclude from the information I have, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mutarudin, for the great lecture. As for conclusion, there are some highlighted information that I get from Dr. Tarudin that it's part of occupational health aspect. There are three important things message regarding the nutrition, that are nutrition education, regarding food safety, and also about hunting intervention. And I already mentioned about the importance about nutrition at work in 2005 about food at work, and also Dr. Mukhtar will enhance the importance of doing biomonitoring for contaminated food for workers, and also some nutritional intervention. So Dr. Mukhtar will stress about our challenge in Indonesia regarding occupational nutrition implementation, that are the company willingness, reaching the majority of the workers, about the regulation, surveillance of foodborne disease, implementation of biomonitoring, and also about the nutritional intervention itself. So it is a great lecture. Once again, give a big applause for Dr. Mukhtarudin. And for the second lecture, I would like to invite Professor Fred Van Dijk. I'm sorry if I misspell your name. Professor Fred Van Dijk, medical doctor PhD. He is the director of the Department of Applied Cellular Medicine at Schleswig-Holstein University at Kiel, Germany. And now he is the visiting professor at the Faculty of Medicine, UITM at Selangor, Malaysia, and also the medical director of the FFIMT Center in KL. And Professor Fred Van Dijk will deliver about lecture in impact of the microbiome in human health and disease prevention. So I would like to invite Professor Fred to come forward and deliver the lecture. Yes, we have a interactive lecture through YouTube. So yes. And this is yes, and this is forward and backward.
Okay. When you go to the beginning of my lecture. So, Dr. Nuri, Dr. Mutta, thank you very much for the kind invitation to is that better?
You better on that because of the vibration.
Okay. I think I have to accept this. Because then I have to turn my head on.
If you sit down, it'll be fine.
Better to sit down. Yes, but I need my. This is the last slide actually. It's not showing us on the screen.
It is standing. Kalau berdiri itu masih oke.
It's better use that microphone.
I think that it was standing. Online lecture.
This is online, is it?
Yeah. So we take away I see. So yeah, stand but not to maybe
You are going live at the moment.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So, thank you. Everybody can hear me? So once again, I consider it a great privilege to be here at this prestigious location, and thank the organizers to have me. And Dr. Dr. Mutta, it's I think you picked a very important subject. I am convinced that most of our chronic diseases are related to environmental pollution, nutritional problems. That's and don't make it too loud, please. And I will try to show to you today the mechanisms which are related to that. So, before I go into this slide, everyone here, sitting here, consists of about 10 trillion cells. Yes. But you harbor in your body 100 trillion bacteria. So when the Human Genome Project started to sequence the genetic material in our bodies, they realized that more than 90% of all genetic information is of non-human origin. This is what we really have to consider. So there would be no life on this planet, no even one single organism without bacteria. So we have been taught since our famous old microbiologist, one of the first one was Robert Koch. He identified the bacterium for tuberculosis. And since then, you know, he was brought up in a Prussian society. Everything was about war and military, and he said, the bacteria, this is something bad, we have to fight. This is wrong. 80% of all the bacterial strains are protective bacteria. And now we have sequenced, we cannot cultivate all these different strains, but by the new PCR techniques, we can sequence the genome of bacteria, and we see that there are at least 5,000 different strains in our body. And every one of you sitting here, except for if you are identical twins, would have a different composition of these 5,000 strains. And the other thing is that if we run down the gastrointestinal tract, which starts with the oral cavity, down to the anus, the composition of these bacterial strains changes quite dramatically, because we need other functions of the microbiome in the upper, in the middle, lower intestine, and in the colon. The colon ascendens is the biggest bioreactor in our body, and it produces what we call so-called small chain fatty acids, and they are very, very important to modulate the immune system. And the number of bacteria is increasing from 10 to 2, 10 to 3 in the stomach to 10 to 11 per gram tissue in our body. Now, that brings me to this slide. And actually, I could talk about this slide for an hour and then just stop. What this slide illustrates is here the lumen of the gut. And there are three compartments, big tissue compartments in our body which are permanently exposed to the outside world. This is the skin, this is the lung, and this is our gut. So everything which enters our gut, drinking water, nutrition, will have an impact on the internal layer of commensal, the green dots. This is good protective bacteria. And everything will have an impact on the integrity of this layer. Now, as has been mentioned by a previous speaker, we are permanently, continuously exposed to toxins which are contaminating our food and our environment. There is antibiotics and hormones in fish and in meat. You don't have a faint idea about how fish and meat industry nowadays is working and what they give to these animals. We had a big scandal in Europe only a few months ago when people found out that even now the third, fourth generation antibiotics are given to animals. And we eat this meat and we get these antibiotics, and our immune system gets resistant. Our bacteria is getting more and more resistant. We cannot cope with that. because the antibiotics don't work anymore. And it's not only the hormones and the antibiotics which break down this barrier. It's also the pesticides, as mentioned, and the herbicides, and the allopathic medication we take, and of course heavy metals. So over years, permanently be exposed to that, there's a big chance that this integral barrier is broken down, and then we have little holes. This is called leaky gut, and then potential pathogenic bacteria can enter, can release compounds which trigger receptors, so-called danger-associated molecular patterns on immune cells, and they release cytokines which make the tissue inflamed. And aside from this, since I'm working in cellular medicine, we have done a very simple experiment. We have used stem cells from different sources: umbilical cord, mesenchymal, hematopoietic, embryonic stem cells. And you put them in a culture flask and you let them grow, and they grow nicely. They produce growth factors, stem cell factors, until you change the pH. If you slowly drop the pH and make them the environment acid below 7.0, 6.8, they stop producing anything. Which means in any inflammation, chronic inflammation, we have acidity, which will drop the pH in the microenvironment of the tissue. This causes pain, as we realize, and this causes paralysis to the stem cells, the resident stem cells in the tissue. So for this reason, it's very obvious to me, if you inject mesenchymal stem cells into an inflamed knee joint, it can only last for a few days, weeks, and then it will stop because the acidity, the inflammation, if it's not reversed, will block the stem cell activity. So you have to balance the pH in the tissue, and you will not do that with drinking alkalic water. Now that's another topic. Now, so the task here is to prevent chronic disease, to restore the integrity of the inner barrier in our gastrointestinal tract and in the lungs, and that can be done with a product which we have produced, which is quite unique, and I will, if I have time, talk a little bit over, discuss that at the end of my talk. Now, this just illustrates a macroscopic view on the morphology of a villi in the gut, and you see the network of highly complex immune and hormone cells with the complex function to trigger immunity, hormone activity, and metabolism, and all that is interconnected with the signaling of compounds which are released from the microbiome in your gut. So there's a very strict interrelation of the microbiome and a lot of different physiologic functions in the gut tissue. And whether you have activation of neurons, immune cells, and other compounds, endocrine cells in the gut, really depends on the sensors at the inside layer of this barrier, and this depends on which composition of bacteria you carry in your body. All that determines these physiologic functions. And once these compounds of, for instance, here gram-negative bacteria, lipopolysaccharides, can enter the gut barrier inside the wall of the gut, then they can activate immune cells like macrophages and trigger signals downside into the nucleus, activate transcription factors, which then activate genes which produce inflammatory cytokines. So it is imperative to have a full integrity of the inner lining of this barrier function. Otherwise, you will run into chronic inflammation. But aside from that, there are so many other impacts the microbiome has on our human well-being, which I want to address here. It has been published that an alteration in the vagina microbiome has quite an impact on the offspring of babies. Now, the microbiome in a woman is determined by, of course, the factors which already have been addressed. It's the environment, it's the hygiene, it's the antibiotics you have, the diet, and epigenetics. And a mother who gives birth to a baby by a cesarean will negatively affect the immunity in the baby, because if you do a cesarean, the baby will only be in contact with the skin microbiome, which has a much narrower arsenal of different bacteria than the delivering tract. And also breastfeeding. If breastfeeding is stopped very early in life, then babies have a reduced immunity. And so this shows you how many factors already during pregnancy can contribute to disease or well-being. This all is related to the microbiome. And it takes about 2 to 3 years until we have developed a full microbiome which carries most of the diversity which we achieve in adult life. So again, I want to line out the impact of the microbiome during pregnancy and in early life on diseases which we can develop. It has been published that if a mother, while she's pregnant, takes one course of 5-day antibiotic treatment, this has a dramatic impact on the well-being of a child later on. Either this antibiotic exposure can actually contribute to underweight if most of the microbiome is destructed of the good protective bacteria. It can also, if nothing much is damaged, develop into a normal child. But it can, and this is in most cases, it will only destroy a certain amount and a certain part of the strains, and then you have a much higher prevalence of overweight, obese young children. So consider this: you are born and you get to gain weight, and you don't know what is wrong with you. It's already predetermined by the microbiome of your mother. So it is really important to educate people to use antibiotics only in rare indications where you really need it. I don't want to go into that. The next point is I'm so intrigued by the fact that our Western society, and also I can see it here, is more and more suffering from neurodegenerative diseases. Neurodegenerative diseases are dementia, cognitive problems, Alzheimer, and Parkinson, multiple sclerosis, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. These are the major four, and for all four it has been shown that one common triggering pathomechanism is inflammation. Now, there is, and this was always postulated, a direct axis between the gut and the brain. And I will give you some data today, which you will, I promise you will be surprised. And because we have this connection, from the gut immunity and the brain, it is very clear now that the microbiome, which triggers the immune cells in the gut, will also have an impact on the neurotransmitter which you produce in your brain. And this has been published that the composition of the microbiome in the gut has quite a big impact on your mood, whether you are anxiety, depressed, whether you have impaired social function or a cognitive dysfunction. This is related, and this has been published in a lot of different publications. And we know now, to some extent, we can identify the disproportion of certain protective bacteria. For instance, in allergies, we know that bifidobacterium is reduced. Autism has been associated with an increase of bacteria. Obesity has always association with low bacteroidetes and high lactobacillus, type 2 diabetes. All these can be related already. And also a big topic, anti-aging. There have been, this is a wonderful publication where animals have been treated with a very healthy probiotic product, and the control cohort was just given saline. And you see that the age of the animals which were protected, where you protected the inner lining, the gut barrier function, they lived significantly longer because they did not develop ulcers and cancer. So this is quite intriguing. Now, this is actually a summary of what Dr. Mukta has told us already. What you see here is, well, I have to tell you, I love Indonesian food. I love rendang. I would never be somehow stimulated to go to one of these franchises where they offer these things. But a lot of people do, especially in my country. And this is pure poison, okay? and in addition, all the pesticides, herbicides, and this is a German word, I forgot to translate it. This means what? Heavy metals, right. Right, good. So I told you that all this together will trigger dysbiosis, a disproportion of good and bad bacteria. This will activate the immune cells in our gut wall, and the highest immune compartment in our body. You know, the universe consists of energy fields which we can't even describe. So this is what probably just happened. And this immunity then gives rise to chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammatory response, this can cause chronic diseases. Aside from that,
That's McDonald's getting upset.
Because he said pure poison.
Yes, I can't be too honest here, I guess. Our toxicology department, together with occupational medicine, they have done a very simple experiment for a PhD thesis. They took apples from organic crop and from crop which have been treated with pesticides. And they examined the amount of vitamins and healthy enzymes in the apple, and in both cases, this, as you know, is in the peel. Now, they try to figure out what it takes to really clean and wash an apple. You all know this proverb, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, I can only tell you, it depends which sort of apples you have. Well, it takes, if you have an apple coming from a normal farming where they use pesticides, it takes a little brush to rub it over the peel for 5 minutes. And then you get rid of 90% of the toxins on the outside. Now I'm asking you, honestly, who in the world would take an apple and brush it for 5 minutes before it's going to eat it? No one does that, right? So the only option you have is to peel it, but if you peel it, you lose all the vitamins. So that's the dilemma we are in. So we can only really try to trigger an understanding, conceptual understanding in the society not to use these pesticides. And pesticides were originally developed, and I'm not proud of that, during the First World War by German chemists who tried to invent nerve gases. And then it turned out that they can kill insects very fast and powerfully. And what they do actually when we inhale or eat them, they go into the cell, and inside the mitochondria they block the electron transport chain. So we will suffer from mitochondrial damage, and that causes a lot of radicals, and that causes DNA damage, and so on. So that's the story about pesticides. I get carried away, sorry. Now, the other impact which has been correlated is microbiome and cancer development. Most of the protective bacteria we have is listed here, especially Firmicutes and Bacteroides are the most abundant too. And now about Firmicutes. The Firmicutes bacteria is the bacteria of the cow. Cows have more than 90% Firmicutes because they basically eat only grass. And they need to absorb each calorie from everything they eat in order to grow. And this is what Firmicutes does. So, if you have a lot of Firmicutes, too much, you will gain weight. You can take any diet you want. You will be obese. You have to correct and to balance the Firmicutes. Okay? Inulin in apple is a very, very good substance to bring down the Firmicutes. They don't like it. Inulin. Okay. Now, what happens in cancer development is if you are exposed to these toxins which we mentioned, that will disorder the normal proportion of bifido and fusobacterium, and this causes, as I told you, activation of immune cells, inflammatory stimuli. So you have chronic inflammatory environment that destabilizes the DNA, you have mutagenesis, and that can cause tumor formation. So it is the gut microbiota, the nutrition you eat, and that together determines your health. And there is a recent publication from a very acknowledged team of scientists, Sid Vogel and Trinchieri, which have looked at the microbiome in the context of cancer treatment. And what they show actually is that the inflammation caused by dysbiosis can initiate and promote and lead to dissemination of cancer cells. And it also has an impact on the response which we give. So the medication, the chemotherapy which we apply and administer to our patients is also depending on the microbiome. And this is shown in this slide. What it actually means is that certain components from conventional microorganisms are entering the gut wall and will mature and activate myeloid cells, which are necessary to convey the chemotherapeutic effect in the tumor cell. So it's a combination of the microbiome and factors they release, activation of certain immune cells which you need to make the whole thing work. Like, for instance, the compound oxaliplatin, a platin compound, needs radical oxygen species to destroy a tumor cell, and this is triggered by the microbiome. Now, another topic, the impact of the microbiome on neurodegeneration. I told you there's a brain axis, and it was a group from Karolinska Institute and University in Stockholm which did this fantastic experiment. I'm still surprised that they were allowed to do it. But they wanted to prove a fact. What they were allowed to do was they were able to open the brains of 5 deceased patients who died from Parkinson. And they took, from the substantia nigra, they took the potential mutated protein which contributes to Parkinson, which is alpha-synuclein. And then they either took this alpha-synuclein from the brain, or they used a synthetic alpha-synuclein and injected it into the upper intestine of experimental rats. And as a control, they just used bovine serum albumin. Now, then they traced this alpha-synuclein with a radioisotope, so they were able to monitor the migration of these proteins. And what they saw is, here's after 12 hours, you see the bovine serum albumin is no contrast, whereas the lysate from the patients is staining the outside sheath of the vagus nerve. So they could monitor the whole migration from these proteins from the gut via the vagus nerve into the brain stem, and from there into the substantia nigra of the animals. And it took 6 days, and then they were able to track the alpha-synuclein in the substantia nigra in those animals. And it took 21 days, and then exclusively 100% of animals started to shiver and to have Parkinson's symptoms. And I think this is really something we have to digest, because it means that if we have a damaged internal barrier in the gut, we can pick up these toxins, heavy metals especially, and they can migrate directly to the brain and cause brain damage. And it has also been published that aluminium, mercury, and cadmium, only small traces going to the brain, they have cause chronic inflammation, and it's very hard to get them back from the brain into the circulation, to detoxify them. And the same is true for multiple sclerosis. It depends. We know now which germs are important to protect us from multiple sclerosis. And so I want to come to the end of my talk. I think I could give you an insight in the various pathomechanisms, how microbiome dysbiosis contributes to disease, and vice versa, how we can protect ourselves. And remember this slide with the inner barrier, with the layers. I told you we need to restore the integrity, and we have produced a product based on a very old Japanese concept. We use aerobic and anaerobic bacteria, and we have a way to cultivate together. But we start with anaerobic, we put them in molasses so they don't have this oxygen problem, then we seed it outside from aerobic, and then we feed these bacteria with extracts from highly organic berries and plants, and they produce natural vitamins and enzymes and antioxidants. And this liquid, in comparison to a normal probiotic, functions like an ecosystem when you take it. It will sense individually the disproportion of your microbiome and reverse the good bacteria to your specific needs. Whereas a probiotic is only supplementing some bacteria, and whether you need them or not, or whether you need them up here or down there, that's a different story. But this product can really regulate and reproportion good and bad bacteria, and that's the big difference. And so I use it since almost, I must be honest, my CEO is here and he always corrects me, 3.5 years, because I started to have inflamed gums. And it was my dentist actually who said, you can use bacteria to cure the inflammation of your gums. And I said, what? I'm a surgeon. I'm a sterile human being. I wouldn't put bacteria in me. But he said, well, just try it. Because for weeks it didn't go away. So I tried it, and after 2 weeks, the whole inflammation of my gums was gone. And then I got interested into that. And that's how it started. Now, I tell you, this product we have, it's so miraculous. We have to do studies on that. I cut myself here, a very deep cut, and it was bleeding. And I sprayed once on the wound. Imagine, I'm a surgeon spraying bacteria on an open wound. And the bleeding stops, and you have to try this, the bleeding stops within 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds, 2 seconds. And it was really deep, and I had pain moving my wrist. And I counted the seconds. After 22 seconds, no more pain. And we have other testimonials here who burned their hand, and you spray on the burn wound, and you will not have pain within seconds, and you will not have blisters or scarring. I don't want to tell too much about it. I just tell you what I want to do, and I think this is really my goal in life. I want to change this paradigm of thinking that bacteria is always bad. We can use good bacteria to kill and regulate pathogenic bacteria. I have used this bacteria in MRSA, multiple resistant Staphylococcus aureus infected wounds, where no antibiotic was at hand, and within 6-7 days, it was free of contamination. We just have to use the right bacteria composition. That's the point here I want to make. And some of the people we have given it, like here is a acute herpes lip infection, which healed very fast, just putting 1 drop on the lip 2-3 times a day, and you have just to test it. You put the drop on the lip, and the pain is disappearing in seconds. This is a highly inflamed hand of psoriasis, edema, which reacted very well on the bacteria. These are mouth ulcers. See here, nothing worked. After a few days, it was gone. This was a guy who was operated twice for recurrent infection of the neck with a carbuncle-like abscess formation. He had antibiotic, the wound was open, it came back. 3 days of the spray externally, it was healing. So this is how the spray looks. It contains 32 different strains, and as I told you, it's cultivated fermenting these extracts. Yeah, this is preclinical work. We don't need to go to that. I just tell you the product has a permission to be distributed and sold in Europe as a health supplement, and it's on the market for almost 10 years, and hundreds of thousands of people in Europe take it. And so far, it's never been reported any side effects or problems. So I consider it a very safe product and a natural product, and for me, tell you, it's the most important prevention we can do, because it will detoxify and clear the heavy metals and toxins which we eat, and we cannot escape our nutrition. We need it. So just to take this spray twice a day, that's what I do. It gives me a very confidential feeling that I protect my body from too many toxins. I hope I could convey to you a new framework of conceptual thinking as far as bacteria is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fred. Now I would like to invite Dr. Tarudin to come forward. Since we are in the discussion session, I will ask. I will invite for the participants. If participants audience has some question, please raise your hands and please state your name and your institution and deliver the question. You may ask in English or maybe in Bahasa Indonesia. I will translate it. Please, is there any question from the audience? I think it's a very interesting topic.
I have a question.
Okay. Okay, please.
I'm sort of staying in Jakarta most of the time at the moment, and I'm very, very concerned about your air pollution because I'm sure that my recent swim talk has to do with the air, which comes in into even a very exclusive apartment through the air vents and through the air conditioners, and you can't be servicing that every day. I'm interested to know what is the Indonesian authorities actually doing about controlling pollution in the air.
To the question you suggest to Dr. Mukarbi or no others? Okay, is there any question? Yeah.
To Professor Fred, I'm sure you are very well aware of Professor Maria from Leiden's lot of works on bacteria in the gut, and she relates it to a number of degenerative disease in particular. So I'd like to know your opinion on it. And second one is, well, actually I'm thinking about nutrition, because when you mentioned that we really have to have a very good barrier, especially in the gut, in dealing with all these various bacteria, and I wonder that I think nutrition is very important because vitamin A really modulates the strength of these epithelial cells in the gut. So I'd like to know your opinion on that. Thank you.
Okay, is there one more participant who would like to ask for the question? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. My questions will be addressed to Dr. Mukhtar because I'm not really familiar with occupational health. So as you mentioned that one of the challenges to promote nutrition at workplace is the company willingness, the company management willingness. So if I can get examples from the school setting, the implementation of UKS unit, it is also kind of willingness of the school. But at the moment, as the Ministry of Education is, it's kind of, they push themselves to, it's good. So for
nutrition, it is quite important to have a composition of protective and non-protective. The problem.
Question for the speakers. Actually, I have a question for you because you mentioned about your like F2F. I'm just curious how this F2F can fit the needs of the protective microbiota for
also addressing the question that was mentioned just now in terms of the food regulation. Precise, personalized, and participatory. So you will have to participate in the implementation of healthy nutrition, and of course we always say is education. And commercialization of good oil and bad oil.
Reverse this biases elsewhere. For example, in the vaginal, my question. Thank you.
Look, the other point, why? Because, actually, so. But this will break down as your microbiome is damaged, and then also very often the fungus overgrows everything, encapsulate the heavy metals, and then the absorption is much higher into the tissue. What we could do with this coal mine work, as what you said, is because in these patients, the uptake of the heavy metals is because they are inhaling the right. So it is in the lung. That could be prevented, brain, that then the microbiota could reverse this. I don't think this is possible.
Okay. Another question?
Yeah, thank you, Professor, and thank you, Professor and Professor, for your motivating lectures. That we promote the use of probiotic to improve our and your improve mostly. So and we understand that
already big farming areas where they use EMs. It's called, you can Google it, effective microorganisms to clear the waste, to get rid of the smell, the odor, and to normalize the natural environment from toxic and infectious microorganisms and pesticides and toxins. So it will be, and it should actually be, a future endeavor to convince and to set up the proper mindset of farmers to use that instead of all these toxins. However, now, if you look economically on the market, agricultural market, and I forgot to put in these slides, there is good data showing that currently only US uses $200 million tons of this glyphosate for agriculture, and the market is right now 220 billion US, which is sold every year worldwide for pesticides and herbicides, and it's predicted to rise to 250 billion US until 2050. So if we don't change our mindset and convert, because it's not necessary if you use EMs, and EMs are much cheaper, but there's no interest because you can't make money with it, right? But it's organic, it's natural. We can only teach, and in this way, it's the same for our human beings as for our nature. We can protect nature, we can protect our farming stock, animals, if we, instead of using all the chemicals, just use organic products. There will be always some indications where you need antibiotics. I'm not against it, but look where we are right now. We have so many patients in Germany, they come into the hospital and they carry MRSA or multiple resistant germs and have to be isolated and hardly one antibiotic can be used because most of our panel of arsenal of antibiotics is already resistant. And this will be a future challenge not to run into the situation that our antibiotics don't work anymore, because we need them in critical situations where bacteria cannot help, without doubt. But we can avoid the uncritical use of antibiotics. This is something which is our task.
Can I just say, just to stimulate the idea of breastfeeding, okay? You mentioned about the breastfeeding just now. Actually, there is something in the breast milk that we give our baby. It's not for the baby. There's certain glycoprotein that is in the breast milk that is for the bacteria in the baby's gut. To chlorify. We know there's a lot of good in the breast milk, the immunoglobulin, IgA. Yeah? Therefore, again, education, not giving breastfeeding to the maximum time will be doing injustice to the baby. Yeah? And already now, the composition of the gut microflora of the baby is affected by many things that Fred have shown. Yeah? And by not breastfeeding the baby and feeding the certain glycoprotein in the breast milk, feeding the bacteria is disadvantageous to the baby. So all of us should encourage breastfeeding as much as, and the milk that we are getting in the supermarket, the pasteurized milk, are doing bad things to us when we take it. Normally it is filled with antibiotics and hormones, and when the process of pasteurization will change the pH and it's bad for us. So don't think that you drink a lot of milk will improve your health. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we have to track back in terms of what is being commercialized around us. Yeah?
One more comment on that from my side. There is some evidence that if you extend breastfeeding over 6 months, that's detrimental. Because then the content of toxins in the milk is higher than the water. So there's also a critical time frame when to stop it. We have in Germany a movement where women now give breast for more than a year because they think it's very natural and the connection to the baby is intenser and all these psychological factors. But they don't do something to the baby if they breastfeed toxins in a higher dose, which happens after 6 months. So look at it carefully. Examine breast milk at birth. It's another important question. I didn't bring the slide. There is huge data published with dysbiotic